Still Loading Podcast is brought to you by the wonderful people on Patreon. Amazing people like Pib Extra, Dennis S., Melissa S., Ryan K., Matt aka Stormageddon, Kevin from the Bit by Bit Foundation, Stephen P., Gilmer, Parallax Puddles, and Mr. Biscuits have all been wonderful enough to support the show over there. So if you would also like to get your name read at the beginning of an episode, along with a bunch of other goodies, go over to patreon.com/stillloadingpod and check out everything it has to offer. On this episode of Still Loading, we get Nintendo hard. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the Still Loading Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Koval, and today's episode, it is a Patreon poll topic. You wonderful patrons out there listening.
Someone asked for this? Oh, man.
Someone asked for this. My guess, as you heard right there, fellow Josh, we got two Joshes on this episode.
Josh squared.
Josh squared. Josh Folan of the Imperial Scrolls of Honor podcast. Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to jamming on this. This is a game we kind of skipped over, even though I have a weird fascination and a personal kind of connection to it in my backlog. So I'm excited to kind of break it down a little bit and I don't know, have the catharsis, you know?
Honestly, it was probably smart that you skipped over this, at least in my opinion. A little hint for later on.
Yeah,
yes,
I concur.
Listeners, if you could not tell by the title of this episode, we were talking about the Adventures of Bayou Billy. I feel like every time I say Bayou Billy, it has to be like an old-timey prospector voice.
Need some twang.
Yes, the Adventures of Bayou Billy. For those who don't know why this game was chosen, I put a poll. I do quarterly polls on my Patreon, and this poll was called it the Summer of Ness Venture. And I picked 4 different NES games, all with adventure somewhere in the title. So you had
such an arbitrary connective tissue.
That's how I live. You know, that's what I go for. Yeah, so let me see here. I'm going to go back to that poll and just get a refresher real quick on like what were the other games on it. It was the Adventures of Bayou Billy, obviously, because it got chosen. But then there was also the Adventures of Dino Riki. There was it was Adventure Island. And here it is. Yes, Adventures of Dino Riki, Adventure Island, and the Adventures of Tom Sawyer.
Okay,
so we
have actually done Dino Riki, and that, I'll tell you, Josh, is a worse video game. So
really,
yes. So it could have gotten worse than this. I'll give you that caveat to the experience or the discussion we're about to have.
Oh, thank Christ that one didn't win. Then I was already nervous about this one. I will say, as much as I did not enjoy this game, spoiler alert for everything you're about to hear, but as much as I did not enjoy this game, there is a lot of stuff to talk about with it. There is so many things. Specifically, I when we go into the game, man, before we do our, we'll start off with our first impressions and first experiences, but when we get into the game, I want to talk about the localization a lot of this, because there's some wild choices this game makes. And we'll get into all of that. And famously, I would say the most famous thing about this game's localization that we will touch on, of course, but it's not the thing I want to focus on, bizarrely enough, is the game's difficulty. In Japan, this game was called Mad City, and it was a lot easier in Japan, and we'll get into more of that in a moment. But there's a lot of stuff I'm excited to talk about this game. So before we get into all of that, though, before we get into the gameplay and the discussion in earnest, I want to hear about your first experiences with this, Josh. Like, how did you first kind of play the Adventures of Bayou Billy? I'm not going to do that the whole time, I swear. How did you first play this game? What are kind of your earliest impressions? Just kind of talk about how you first heard about it and played it.
Sure. This is a game that I I don't exact. I wish I could remember the exact, whether it was a trade or I think I don't remember giving anything up for it, but it is a game that I acquired from a friend as kind of like a Lucy situation. I remember not
Mm,
having the manual. I remember just having I didn't even have a slipcase. I had one of the clamshell, the cloudy smoke colored clamshell cases that who
mhm.
knows, this kid was well to do. He kept all his games in these things. That's a whole other topic. This friend of mine from my childhood. But yeah, this was a game that I liked enough to seek out on my, most games come to you as a child
Yeah.
via gift or something, and it requires some parental intervention. This was a game that I took the initiative to, make the decision and seek out and acquire on my own with how, whatever I would have given them lunch money. I don't know where the money would have come from or whatever, if it was a purchase, because again, I don't remember anything going out the door for it. But yeah, so this was a game that I sought out, and I don't remember why I thought it was worth that investment financially and emotionally, but I did think it warranted that. And I imagine I had played it at his house prior to making that decision. So, and it's weird. Like, that is kind of like how I still feel about it today. Like, on the surface, it has this allure to it. There is a lot of, it's Konami, they know how to
Mhm.
package things and make them look good. So that is all here. The problem is, I think, just the moment to moment gameplay. And I think kind of the inciting event of us getting on this conversation together was my reply on Blue Sky about, it's NES, it's like a cardinal NES sin in that they are trying to diversify their gameplay range here with this thing with the 3 different play modes, and there's just not enough bits. There's just not, they don't have enough bits to work with, and none of them end up being good because of that
Yeah.
ambitious diversification pursuit. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was something I sought out. I thought it looked real shiny and fun, and I got it home, and like, I don't think I ever got past probably that first driving thing is what I'm thinking. I feel like I never knew that there were 2 in a row. And that blew my mind as a design decision. So I don't think I'd ever gotten to that as a child, even having the game in my possession, in my collection, which is, I think, all the indictment you need as a kid. You don't, it's not like I had a million Nintendo games. So the fact that I sought it out myself and still didn't get anywhere in it, I think says all you need to know about how hard and off-putting it is.
It's an extremely difficult game. Now, I have to ask though, when you first got it, had you recently seen Crocodile Dundee or anything like that?
I certainly saw those movies as a kid, and I do not doubt that I liked them for sure. Those are great movies. I think that to
Mhm.
this day, even, especially the first one. And there just has to have been some level of connection there. I don't remember it being a one I was cognizant of at the time, but I'm sure there was, no question.
This game has such a bizarre combination of vibes and themes with it. Like, it's got Crocodile Dundee, obviously. Bayou Billy himself looks straight out of Crocodile Dundee. Looks like Paul
100%.
Hogan a little bit, though Paul Hogan with no neck. If you're looking at the box art, that man's just got a face superimposed on shoulders.
Yeah.
That's all it looks like.
And Annabelle certainly has a different vibe to her than the lead heroine in the films, for sure.
Yes.
She's a journalist and perhaps a little I don't know, more worldly.
She's a journalist and actually has like a personality. Annabelle. I mean, granted, it's an NES game, so what do
Yeah,
you?
I don't think they made
It's
that
all
effort
damsel
there.
in distress stuff on the NES. A
Precisely.
lot of it, but like I think what's even weirder, the first thing I Annabelle was such a weird character to me. Like, I understand she's the inciting incident. It's the cliche, the sexist trope.
I've lost my female. Now I need to devote my life to reacquiring this object that I have in
Exactly.
my possession.
But
Correct.
I think what's even more weird is that they made her even more sexualized than was necessary.
For
Like,
sure.
when you see her like in moments tied
Every
up,
time.
there's
Yeah,
cleavage shot,
it's never a different pose. It's always the same
it's
completely
the
sexualized shot.
same
Yeah, yeah.
shot, and on top of that, when you rescue her, when spoiler, I did not beat this game. This game fucking sucks. I played a little bit of it, and I played it more when I like a decade ago. I'll get into my personal experience in just a moment, but I watched the whole long play. It's only like 40 minutes, And the finale of it, like when Annabelle, when you rescue her and she runs over to you, they put fucking boob jiggle physics in the animation.
It's
And
just
I'm like,
amazing.
is
And
that
again,
necessary?
again, there's only so many bits in these carts, and like
And
that's
they
why the ass.
devoted
Right,
some
yeah,
precious bits to boob
right.
jiggle. Like,
Right,
come on, man.
precisely. That was warranted. Yeah. Well, that's also not surprising as
No.
I work in film, and if you can find a way from a marketing perspective, if you can find a way to pepper some sex in there, it's probably money well spent. And I'm sure Konami did not think any differently in
Well, it's we
1987 or whatever.
yeah. It's so silly to me. Like, I get it. It's of the time. I'm not gonna like rake it over the coals for it. But at the same time, there's other stuff that wouldn't. Anyway, it's not worth
Well,
beating
yeah.
my head over.
From a experience perspective, those bits certainly could have been allocated to
In more
could have been better allocated, right? For
in
sure.
much better spaces.
Yeah.
So my experience with Bayou Billy, though, I first heard about it and got into it. I'm a little bit younger than you, so I didn't actually grow up with the NES. I'm old enough that I would have, but my parents didn't buy me video games until I was like 10, and by then I was like the N64 era, right?
I
So
was
I
a late
missed.
adopter too. I didn't get mine. I mean, I guess I am older, so whatever. It's not the exact same statement, but I didn't get mine until I think I was 10, actually. So my NES. I
Okay.
had an Atari prior to that, but a 2600. But I didn't get my NES. I was pretty late to the game as
Mm.
well.
So I missed out on a lot of this stuff, and when I first got into retro gaming and collecting and all that stuff, AVGN kind of got me into it, and the ball went from there. I've talked about this before on other podcasts, so I'll save it here. Um, who knows? Maybe if someone's curious, I'll say it again on the components episode. I don't fucking know, but so I started getting into retro gaming, and I started collecting, and I got this game literally just because I'm like, oh, this looks like Crocodile Dundee. That's weird. And I remember when I first started
It's
the
early Konami.
podcast.
How could you go wrong?
I mean, I had very little semblance of knowing the Konami, like how high quality Konami was. Like, I was so new into retro gaming at the time, right? Like it. It was a lot of it was just like there was a lot of stuff that I just was completely oblivious to. That seems like, how could you not know that? But that's I was oblivious to it. I don't even have an excuse. I was just oblivious to it. So it was before I understood how Capcom and Konami, arguably the two like highest quality third party developers for the NES back then, and I remember playing it at the start, like Justin and I, the original co-host of this show, we were playing it, and I don't think it's up on YouTube anywhere, not that I can find at least. And when we first started to try to do Let's Plays, like you can see some of our old Let's Plays on the YouTube channel. I'm not saying they're good. I don't even know what we said on them because it's over a decade ago, but I believe we tested it out with a Bayou Billy one. But we might have just filmed the TV. It wasn't even done through a capture card because we couldn't afford one at the time. So I don't think the Bayou. I actually looked. I didn't see Bayou Billy on the video list, so I don't know where that is anymore. But I remember us playing it and filming it and all this other stuff. And I remember having a lot of fun with that because it was kind of under the guise of just two friends dicking around and getting mad at the game. Playing it for this was so much worse, and it was just tough. So I played literally the first like 30 seconds of the first level. I'm like, nope, I remember everything about this now. I hate this, and I never beat it back then too. I got to the driving section that you were talking about, the when I first played it, but it just knowing how long it takes just to beat the first level, and it's so slow and so monotonous. And there's a reason
Plotting
for
for
that.
sure.
We'll
It's
get
funny.
into that.
You mentioned dropping off on that drive. I would love to know. I'm a data nerd and a half. And I just love graphs and whatever infographics. Can't get enough of it. And I would love to see the plotting of like the overall in history Bayou Billy playership and
Yeah.
see like where that like most common drop. I would be shocked if it's not that first driving stage because those are terrible. Those are
It's
terrible.
Oh man, and you know what? That leads us to a perfect transition, Josh. Thank you. We can talk about here, like as we get into the gameplay, the first thing I want to bring up is the localization of this game and how it was brought over to the US. And that ties into what you were talking about there, man, with the driving segment. So for those who don't know, Bayou Billy in Japan was called Mad City. And in Japan, it was significantly easier. It's really interesting. One of the notes I wrote down for this was, how there's that. I guess that perception that games in Japan were harder than in North America, right?
Right.
And everyone always points to Mega Man 2 specifically, where like Mega Man 2, you had easy and normal mode, and normal mode was just, or sorry, no, normal and hard mode in North America for Mega Man 2. And in Japan, there was no normal and hard mode. The hard mode we got in North America was just the only difficulty level in Japan. So we had our normal mode was easier than their normal mode, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Right.
Um, and so because of stuff like that, there's been a perception, especially in North America, that games in Japan are just harder. Like the Japanese gamers they had harder games than we did, and that wasn't always the case. Like, yes, Mega Man 2 was like that, but Bayou Billy was not. Bayou Billy in North America was significantly harder than it was in Japan. And what's weird is that both this game and Mega Man 2 came out in June 1989.
Two different, Capcom and Konami, two different. And because there's a flip side of that too, where some games were done in that way because of the rental market in the U.S.
That's exactly why this one was done.
Right,
Yep.
Precisely, right. So that some, it probably is just a Konami had gotten a memo, from corporate, like, oh, we got to make them all harder, man. The Americans are blowing our market out of the water with rental thing, So that probably is how that went down, would be my guess.
And I don't understand the logic to it. I mean, okay, so the logic being, for those who might be confused, why would they do that? The rental, you're not legally, you cannot rent games in Japan. The rental market for video games in Japan does not exist. It obviously was very big here.
They must have had more lobbying dollars in Japan, Nintendo. I mean,
so. It's a completely different, it's just completely different. And like, what's interesting here then is that because of that difference, they started making games, the American versions of games, harder, so that way kids could not beat those games in a weekend. And so if they couldn't beat it in a weekend, it would then incentivize them to buy the game instead of renting it.
Right.
Part of me, like, I was watching Jeremy Parrish's video on Bayou Billy, because there's not a lot of research out on this game. I was trying to find like interviews and stuff like that, and there's not a whole lot of interviews that I was able to find. I actually couldn't find any interviews. A lot of it's just stuff that I found either from Jeremy Parrish's video or a couple other videos that I kind of
those
on
early games. You can't even, obviously, it goes without saying, this is rote and known to any retro gaming nerd, but you can't even get names of people who worked on them because of the way they did the credits for whatever reason back then. So yeah, it's tough to get real accurate.
One of the reasons the credits were like so sparse. Now this game actually does have credits, believe it or not, goofy credits, but then also like real credits, and we'll talk about the goofy ones later on. But you're right, man. And a lot of that was because they didn't want talent getting poached.
Right.
So it was stuff like that. Now, what I was going to say though was in Japan, in the North American version, bad guys hit twice as hard as they do in the Japanese one, and they take twice as many hits. So not only are you getting hit harder, the enemies can take more hits.
Right.
The enemies can also move faster, and their attacks take priority over yours. So if you both attack at the same time, there's a greater chance of them hitting you versus you hitting them.
That makes total sense. And that's such a, that is such a, I don't know, that's such a product of the times, man. It's such bad design to just take something that was, organically created and balanced and probably play tested over in Japan, and they just rejigger the numbers that it results in, it takes longer to beat, or maybe can't be beaten at all. And that's why this game feels that way, because it's just arbitrarily rebalanced, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't translate to enjoyable gameplay, yada, yada, yada. And you can feel that so starkly when the controller's in your hand playing this game.
And what I just said there too, man, was just the beat 'em up section. So in this game, listeners, this is a multi-genre game, which is something you don't really see. Actually, no, you see a lot more often now, but they're blended a lot more seamlessly. Like in this game, you have your side-scrolling beat 'em up. You have your light gun rail shooter. Then you have a driving section, and so you have those three different modes, and it interchanges between all of them depending on which level you're in. Now, like if you're playing like Halo, you'll go into first person shoot, you'll be, running around shooting bad guys, you'll hop into a Warthog, and now you're in a driving segment, but it doesn't break the immersion. Back then, obviously, you couldn't do that. So they
Fewer
had
bits, Josh.
fewer bits. Now, and Jeremy, not to keep stealing points from Jeremy, but like he did a really great video on this game, and he talks about how, like, because in his series the NES works, like what he's been doing is looking at games for each console, like literally in chronological order. So when he talks about this is the first time he's seen something like that, he's actually played games leading up to that and can talk about the context in which the game came out. And one of the things he mentioned was like, this is a very technically impressive Konami game for the NES, not only because of how much they fit into the game, which ended up being a detriment to it, which you've touched on already. There's too much stuff that they can't make any one thing really great. Everything's just okay at best. But then there's also like a raster effect on the title screen where like the Bayou Billy comes in all squiggly, and there's sampled voices. They did a sampled voice on the.
They sound terrible.
Voice.
I couldn't even tell what the one at the end of the game was. I couldn't even tell what that. Yeah, I couldn't even understand what it was. And that's
that should have been the tagline for the episode.
Right, just mumble jumbo.
Nintendo hard. But in the shooting section, though, you have fewer bullets, and the enemies deliver more damage to you. And in the driving mode, Josh, the one that you were touching on that is like bullshit hard. Driving mode, you have less time to complete each section. The roads are more narrow, and you have one-hit deaths. Like there was a health meter in the Japanese version.
Brutal, man.
In the American version, one hit, you're gone.
Yeah, those stages are brutal. Those are absolutely, and they like it. And to make it worse, well, whatever. We're not getting into that.
No, you can go into it. It's fine. I've covered. There's other localization stuff I'll cover towards the end, but I wanted to at least touch on the difficulty differences, and I've named all the differences. So if you want to dive into something, go for it.
Yeah, I mean those specifically, the frames of animation are not. There's not enough frames of animation to convey what's actually going on moment to moment for you to read, react, and like play that satisfyingly. It's too choppy for what it is, for what's going on, to like really get good at it. You know what I mean? And those stages are just, I cannot believe how long they are. For how awful they are, I cannot believe how long they drag them out. So again, just a completely tone deaf design decision, I think. And that's because, like you just said, they didn't make that. It wasn't a design decision. That was done a certain way, balanced, and it was probably enjoyable in the Japanese version, which I've never played. But when they just like, okay, make it harder, and like stripped all these things away and made what you have to do harder, it's not balanced at all. And like, there's just no enjoyment to those stages at all. And I'm sure they probably extended how long the damn road was even. I don't know if you said that or not. I can't remember, but
they narrowed it. They narrowed it, and you lost time. So like the way it made it sound in Jeremy's video is that the length of road is the same, but the time you have to complete it is lower.
Oh, well, even that, man, yeah, they're just way too long, and it's too monotonous. There's just not enough variance to what happens to be that long. It's so unenjoyable in my opinion.
It's not great. And there's a total of 9 stages. You have the first stage is Bayou's Backyard, and that's a beat 'em up section. Then you have stage 2, which is deep in the heart of the Dixie Swamp. Which is a gun shooting stage according to the manual. And then stage 3 is Gator Alley, which is back to beat 'em up. Stage 4 is the road to New Orleans. It's a car driving stage, which is what we've been talking about. And actually, you know what's funny? Hold on. I want to know. I'm going to test something real quick. I have a long play up in the background right now. I'm looking at a scan of the manual on archive.org. And I swear the picture they have for the driving stage, the road is wider in the picture than what you get in the game.
Okay, that's good. I'm sure that would be the least surprising thing ever to me.
Right? I'm gonna double check it real quick. It looks a lot. Yeah, it looks wider on the on the picture. Now, with that said, it does look just like a screen grab that they just made black and white. So yeah, I'm just gonna say they probably used a screen grab from the Japanese version
Yeah.
because the road looks different too.
Them taking the time and spending the money to redo those assets for the manual, no chance in my opinion. So yeah, least surprising thing ever.
And then stage 5 is another car driving segment, of course. Who would have
I
expected?
cannot believe they did those back to back. I cannot believe they did that back to back. That's so bad.
Stage 6 is the French Quarter. Ooh la la! It literally has that in quote in parentheses underneath that in the manual. It goes ooh la la in the parentheses underneath.
It's easily the coolest themed and visually impressive stage in the game for sure. It's not enjoyable either, but it is visually the coolest one, I think.
And then stage 7 is Gordon's Gateway, aka Murderer's Row, which is another gun shooting stage. Then stage 8 is Hitman's Yard, which looks like another side-scrolling beat 'em up. And then stage 9, the Perilous Plantation. I can't read what it says because it literally is. Actually, you know what? Why am I looking at the scan? I literally have the physical box in front of me I have a complete in-box version of the game literally in front of me right now.
Nice. What a relic, Josh.
Hey man, collecting is I got it a couple years ago. It's funny though. So the premise of this game though, before we talk about the specific mechanics and everything, the premise of this game is that we already touched on it with the jiggle physics, where you play as Bayou Billy and you're the love of your life, Annabelle Bon Vivant, Annabelle Bon Vivant, which is weird because in the credits they credit her as Annabelle Lane, but okay, that doesn't make any goddamn sense. But all right. She gets captured by a crime boss in Louisiana in New Orleans called Gordon. Just Gordon. No,
it's Godfather Gordon.
Godfather Gordon,
the
gangster king of Bourbon
Street. Right, yeah.
And so he captures her and you have to go rescue her. But did you read the introduction? Did you read any of the manual at all?
Oh yeah, I did. Well, not the manual. No, I the interstitials. I'm all over, but I didn't do a manual read of substance. Really, no.
So I'm going to read. It's a little bit long, but I think the whole thing's kind of amusing. And I was talking before about how
I love story. Tell me, enlighten me.
Well, I was saying how the localization is what I'm most interested in, and this is part of it. Where I think whoever localized this had a lot of fun, and I'm not just talking about the difficulty or the weirdness of the sexual images of Annabelle, whatever the fuck. But this is from the manual. And the title goes, "How far will you go for the girl of your dreams?" And then this is writing. It goes, "A long black cottonmouth quietly snakes across the porch of your bayou bungalow, his moist back shining in the moonlight. But you pay no mind to your visitor. You're too lost in love after walking your best girl, Annabelle (parentheses the sweetest honey this side of a bee's nest) home from the jambalaya jamboree, where you romantically bobbed for crawdads and shared a bowl of filet gumbo. You're also satisfied from smashing Gordon's, the gangster king of Bourbon Street, red beans and rice warehouse, the fabled headquarters of a global smuggling network. Suddenly, a speeding limo peels across your moss-infested lawn. Bullets strafe your gutters, scaring birds from their roosts and driving you to the ground. When the smoke clears, you see a rock beside your head with a note attached. It reads, "Dear Mr. Bayou Billy, cause of your meddling in my livelihood, I've taken measures to end your hankering for bravery. Your cherished Annabelle is holed up here on my plantation, and lessen you stop messing with my business, she ain't never going to grace your neck of the swamp again. Threateningly yours, Gordo." This is the last part. You crumple the note and holler like a riled gator. Fire dances in your eyes and sweat beads on your hands and forehead. You reach for your foot-long blade, knowing what you must do.
Man, Konami, like so we didn't cover this one. We've covered plenty of Konami games, of course. Konami's their writing department, copywriting department for these manuals and even the box text and stuff, man, it's the best in the system. It's not even close, I don't think. So yeah, that's as a writer myself too, man. That's great writing. The idea that it's in a video game manual for something that maybe doesn't deserve or warrant it. No. It's funny, but they are great with that stuff, dude. They are great with the window dressing, and there's in the interstitials in the game too. I mean, I would say it is intentionally, because they are directly ripping Crocodile Dundee. I think that there's a creative decision to kind of factor in all that lame 80s movie stuff, the bad expositional dialogue. Like, I think that's all deliberate, and it's the maniacal laughing that is the button on every one of those interstitials. Like, I think it's all a intelligent design situation, not bad decision making or just lame, lazy copywriting. Like, I think it's all deliberate, and yeah, Konami is fantastic with that stuff, dude. Fantastic.
I think that's what makes this game so weird, is that the gameplay itself is not great. Like we said, the beat 'em up section, I know we haven't even really touched on the specific mechanics, but like each section is just a mediocre version of what it's trying to emulate.
Right.
But the background for Bayou Billy itself, minus the ridiculous stuff with Annabelle, is like really thought out. Like, they actually gave a shit, it seems like. Even when you further on in the manual, after you read the how to play section, then they kind of go through some of the characters and they do a little snippet for the hero and heroine. Bayou Billy, raised by a family of gators, you've grown into a legend. You're a regular swamp superhero, and all the Southern belles love your brute strength and Cajun charm. Of course, your heart is reserved for only one belle. And then it goes to Annabelle Bon Vivant. An ex-Miss Louisiana. Annabelle is a cross between Scarlett O'Hara and Ellie Mae Clampett. Sorry, she's the most beautiful babe in the bayou, a 3-time cover girl for the glamour magazine Swamp Digest. Like, they're just like having fun with this.
Yeah, and of course has accomplished nothing that isn't attributed to her physical beauty.
I mean, it's the 80s, of course.
Right.
I'm not just. I find it amusing how blatantly like sexist it is. Like, I shouldn't find that amusing. It's wild to me. I shouldn't say I find it amusing. I find it just so preposterous is, I think, the better way to describe it. It's just bizarre.
Nothing's right. I was clearly, you heard my praise for it. I was fully invested as you read that synopsis blurb to me. Did it? I seem to have. I don't know. I must have been so captivated I lost the thread of what I was actually hearing. Did they actually say the reason that Gordon is
upset? They do say the reason.
What did he do?
He decided? So Bayou Billy, I don't know why Bayou Billy decided to do this, but he decided to smash up Gordon's, and I quote, the name of his warehouse is the Red Beans and Rice Warehouse.
I thought that was just headquarters. I thought that was, I kind of just took that as like, he like had a raucous good time there with Annabelle the one night.
He just decided to take her to a gangster's warehouse and just have a full.
Well, Red Beans and Rice. I thought it was like a bar or something. Is what that again?
No, it's the name of his warehouse. Isn't that weird?
Okay. All right. Yeah. So but either way, they do not divulge his motive for that, which I think is key to making that matter. So, as much praise as I gave the copywriting there or the writing staff, maybe
I don't mind it so much, because I think it's the subtext is that it's a smuggling. It's the fabled headquarters of a smuggler, or what? How do they write it? I'm sorry. Hold on. They rate it. It says the Red Beans and Rice Warehouse, the fabled headquarters of a global smuggling network. So if Bayou Billy is a superhero, he's trying to stop a smuggling network, but they don't actually.
So he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't need motive. He's just an altruistic.
The way they describe him, there's a character. I was talking to you a bit off mic about the Comedy Bang Bang podcast. Paul F. Tompkins plays a character called J.W. Stillwater, who is a vigilante crime fighter from Cumberbatch County, Florida, which that's a fictional county, by the way, but I still find it funny. And he is just but I just want him to play like Bayou Billy now as J.W. Stillwater. But J.W. Stillwater, he hears a crime go, and so he gets on his fan boat around Cumberbatch County and tries to go fight crime on his fan boat. And the whole thing started because someone stole his hammer, and he's mad that the cops have not done anything to help find a stolen hammer. So it turns out, though, if you listen to all his appearances on Comedy Bang Bang, that he just lost it. No one stole it. he just lost the hammer, and so now he's mad, and so he's just going.
Just taking it out on
And so every
whatever.
time he appears on mic, like when he first pops on, especially in a live show, he just goes, "Is y'all safe?" And if someone says no, then he knows. All right, I got to go fight a crime. I have to go fight a crime. It's such a ridiculous character, and I really just want to hear Paul F. Tompkins do his J.W. Stillwater as Bayou Billy now.
Maybe he's got a cameo or something. You can make that happen for yourself.
Bayou Billy like pops into the warehouse. Is he all safe? And he starts smashing the red beans warehouse. I heard a crime go.
Okay, well, yeah, that doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah, not the best motivation for
it doesn't totally flesh out. Since got it.
But yeah, so with the gameplay now, we can talk about like we've touched on all the stuff that I wanted to, with the exception of actually, you know what? This is the last thing about the localization, because the enemies on this, and we can use this to talk of the enemies to go into the gameplay itself. So in the credit sequence, once you beat the game, they have Billy. It's weird. They have like the characters' names from the game, and then it almost seems like it's a movie credits. Like Bad Guy A played by so and so.
A Konami thing too. Yeah, they do that with Castlevania, where it's like it's supposedly an actor with a different name playing that character, which is fun. That's really I think that's pretty.
Oh,
fun.
that actually makes sense then. So Billy is played by Billy West, of Futurama fame. No.
Right.
Annabelle is played by Annabelle Lane in this fictional thing. Bad Guy A is played by Thugs McGraw. Bad Guy B is Kid Creole. Kid Creole. I'm probably butchering that. Anyone from Louisiana is going to be pissed at me. Bad Guy C is
Creole is how you pronounce that. Creole.
Yeah. Oh, Creole. Okay. Bad Guy C is Toulouse L'Attaque. Frogman is Jacques Kilstow.
Yep.
Fat Man is played by Hurricane Hank. Punk is played by the Cajun Cutthroat.
Yeah.
This one's my personal favorite. Chain Man is played by Migraine Mike. That really gets me. And there's a couple others. There's Whipmaster, A.L. Hurt, Dogmaster, Swamp Gas Charlie, Iron Man played by Blackie Blue, heirs to Gordon's
Swamp Gas
Underworld
Charlie is a really good one. That's a good one.
Swamp I really wish they would have just put Swamp Ass Charlie. It's just a dude with a wet butt the whole time.
Yeah, that would you figure they have slip that typo in there with just the developers having fun.
Why is the sprite's butt darker than the front of him? I don't understand. Heirs to Gordon's Underworld Throne, Rocky and Rocco, which are technically the final enemies you fight in the game. Right. Boss A is Louis Torture. Tor-Chor, torture. And then obviously the final boss is Godfather Gordon, the gangster king of Bourbon Street.
Yeah. Well, so like you said, not the final boss. Like yet another just disappointing thing about the gameplay, I think, that Gordon isn't your final test is lame. But it'd be one thing if those guys had like some narrative significance, like they had been presented as someone you cared about before that moment, but they are just an arbitrary, supposedly tougher test after the whole culmination of this god-awful experience you've had. I thought I was really upset about that too, actually watching the playthrough at the end.
Well, I think there's other games that have done stuff like that well, where like like Metroid, right? Where you beat Mother Brain, but that's not the final test. The final test is escaping the planet before it explodes. But to your point, Josh,
but that makes narrative significance.
There's narrative significance in that.
Right.
So there is none in here. I don't know who the fuck Rocky and Rocco are.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. And they're lame. They're just lame designs too. They don't have no faces. They're just like they look like
they honestly look like cybernetic soldiers. They got like bizarre like circular shoulders and shit.
Right. Yeah. Some sort of armor on. Yeah. Lame.
So I want to throw it over to you, man. I've been talking a whole bunch about all this localization stuff. I want to talk about the gameplay now. So you don't have to go in order. There is the beat 'em up section. There's the driving section, which we have touched on. But if there's more you want to add to it or reiterate, feel free. And the shoot 'em up section. So just your thoughts on the gameplay. Anything you want to dive into?
Sure. Well, the side-scrolling stuff obviously is probably intended to be the meat of this game. Even though, really, if you look at looking at the balance, the distribution of level types on paper, it really is. There's 4 of them, which doesn't. I don't know. Given what it's just seems like not enough. Although in actuality is plenty. I don't want any more. But like from a design perspective, it seems like it's a light on that, given that's kind of what the focus of the game at least seems like it should be. But whatever the case, like my whole thing is like I'll state the thesis up front. I think there's only one good beat 'em up in the 8-bit era, and that is River City Ransom. I think
That
Double
game's
Dragon, yeah, it's fantastic, and that's because it's an RPG. That's why there's just more there. The problem with an 8-bit RPG is, or sorry, 8-bit beat 'em up is you only have 2 buttons, man, and there's just not enough. There's no way to make that interesting. You know, it's just punch and kick, and there's not enough. You know, there's just not enough variance to the gameplay. There's not enough variance to what you can exert onto the enemies from like a, you know, fighting perspective. So to me, there's just not enough. You don't have enough tools at your disposal to execute those games well, in my opinion, at the 8-bit level. And that applies to, like, you know, Double Dragons are kind of what people will point to. And the later ones on the NES are okay. 2 and 3, I think they're all right. My co-host on Imperial Scrolls of Honor would argue a little more adamantly for them, but they're okay. I kind of like actually the Double Dragon on SMS. We did an episode on that, and that was pretty good. It maintains the couch co-op thing that the one on NES does not have. So that's cool, and they're okay. But it's just not until you get to like Streets of Rage 16-bit era stuff where you really can have some fun and do some acrobatic stuff, and there's just, you know, more layers to those games from a beat 'em up perspective. Until you get there, I just don't think these work well. And that is so prevalent here. Like to me, they're like jump kick-a-thons. Like the only thing you can do in an 8-bit beat 'em up to not get your ass whooped is usually just jump kicking nonstop. And that is 100% the case here until you can get the whip, which is kind of an OP weapon that allows you to maintain some distance and still get a hit in and not be at the mercy of what you described it. And that is not, I didn't know that they have hit priority over you as far as just the numbers of it, the math. And that makes perfect sense because there is no way to like hand to hand maintain control of an engagement with an enemy in this game. Like you are going to take a hit if you are within reach and just try and do, you know, do a kick punch combo, or there are no combos. That's the problem. There's no way to do a combo.
There's not.
That's why it's not fun. Like a beat 'em up you need to be able to execute combos and do cool stuff. I just watched a really great show, the Classic Gaming Quarterly, his YouTube shows, and he has that one I kind of been jamming on the backlog of the Weekend Rental, and I just watched the Streets of Rage episode he did of that, and like, you know, just there's just, you can throw enemies into each other, and like there's just, you know, if someone approaches you while you're engaged with one enemy, you have the ability to turn around and slap that one behind you and stun them for a second, and then go back to the enemy you were engaged with and actually get out of that okay if you do it right, you know. And there's just you do not have that available to you here. There's no way to successfully kill an enemy without taking some damage. And like you said, it's so balanced, it's balanced so poorly that you take a ton of damage in each one of these engagements. So you're just, it feels like a quarter dumping machine in the arcade, but without any of the cool stuff that make that work too, you know. And yeah, they're just, the mobility's bad. The enemy movement is erratic and like not, you know, I don't feel like you can get good, and that's the biggest problem with a beat 'em up. You have to feel like you can get good and be able to get good and enjoy a beat 'em up, and you can't do that here.
Even the long play I was watching, the way they so this dude only used really melee weapons. Apparently, you can get a gun though. I've never seen someone use a gun unless you collect bullets for the shoot 'em up section. That's the only thing I can think of.
No, you get a gun from the swamp guys. When you're in the, I think it might be even in that first one, but definitely the third one. The diving suit guys have them, and you can get them, and yeah, that's a little helpful because you can maintain some distance there. But even that, the enemies move so erratically, and the movement patterns that like shooting is not really
an optimal.
It's not, and you of course have limited bullets, and whatever, that's a whole tangent, but I'm like a resource hoarder, so I never want to use my best resource anyways if it's finite, so that is not helpful maybe either. But yeah, it's just until you get the whip, there's really none of these weapons are really helpful. The stick's kind of good, but you can still get popped very easily using that, so it's just not great. It's just not great.
Well, and the way that the long player got around it was that it's a lot of up and down movement. Like they'll punch while moving up on the screen. So that way, if the enemy decides to punch at the same time, he's already holding up. So it's literally like moving up and down on the screen to have Bayou Billy
On a
go
different
up.
horizontal plane too. Yeah,
Yeah.
that jump kicking and that are really the tropes for these 8-bit. Again,
Mhm.
it's just too many of them and they're all the same and it's all the same problem. Like the only way, you're either jump kicking and then you can kind of basically essentially just jump to achieve the same thing as you're describing there, or like in Double Dragon, this is a huge thing, even that SMS one that I kind of like. All you're really doing is you're approaching the enemy on a horizontal plane just above or below it, and then you just pop onto its horizontal plane just as you're there, land the blow, and then get back off that thing before they can, or get off that horizontal axis before they can,
Mhm.
return fire, and
And
that
like,
obviously isn't fun.
and even in like, if you're comparing it to other beat 'em ups of the era, like, so when did Double Dragon 2 come out? Now I'm gonna double check that. Double
That would
Dragon
be, it's
2.
probably 90, I would say.
Yeah, I guess.
US, anyways, would be 90.
December 89 in Japan, and this came out in June 89. So you could make development times were a lot quicker turnaround time. So you could make the argument there's some similarity there. But even then, do you remember in the original Double Dragon for NES? I know it was single player only, but could you still grapple enemies and throw them?
You
Yeah.
could you
So,
grab their hair and then you can knee them in the face and stuff
yeah.
and then throw them
So
over your
that, yeah,
shoulder.
I just wanted to make sure because it's been a minute since I played the original. I know you can do that in 2 because I've actually played that one a lot. And so I was like, well, thinking about this, like, even by comparison, even to the limited move set that you have on 8-bit beat 'em up games and stuff like that, side scrolling beat 'em ups, this game just severely lacks everything. All you can do is
Double
punch,
Dragon
kick.
is definitely better.
Yeah. And it's not
Definitely
even a
better.
fucking contest. Like, it's just,
Right.
it's crazy how limited your moveset is. And arguably it's because they diversified their gameplay too much. And I admire, I'm happy games like this exist at the same time. As much as I don't think this is good, I admire it when devs will try different things and take big swings.
Yeah, man, that is why I wanted to, like, that's what drew me to it as a child, is that, like, oh, there's all these, look at all, I love shooting. I love the, the well done shooting gallery games. A good driving game
Mhm.
is cool. I love a good beat 'em up, if, especially a well themed, fun one with a movie property that I like, even if it's not actually supposed to be that. Like, all the bells and whistles and trimmings look great from afar. But yeah, when you get into it, man, it's just, none of them are done well. And in hindsight, obviously everything's great. Everything's 2020, of course. And like I mentioned when we were first talking about, getting into this, doing this together, like it just never panned out in the NES. Again, just not enough bits, and they just did not. It was misguided. Love the swing, but I wish they'd have had a better idea of the impossibility of it at the time, I guess,
I think the thing that they probably nailed the best out of all of it would have been the shoot 'em up section, the light gun section. Because
If we haven't talked about it
hard
yet,
to
but
mess
if you
up.
could do it with the Zapper, I think
Yeah.
they'd be fun. But with the controller, awful.
Yeah, no, not great. With the Zapper, it's a lot of fun, which is how it's
Right.
meant to be played. So I would
Of course.
grade it off that. They even tell
Right.
you, like, hey, this section is for a Zapper. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So
And
I'm
that's
assuming
probably
you
to be
have.
commended, even that they gave you the option of doing it both ways is pretty cool.
Mhm.
I guess also just smart from a marketing perspective. Not every kid most kids had a Zapper.
Yeah, because they would
But
have
not
been
every kid.
bundled with it, I believe, right? Most NESs came bundled with the
Some of
Zapper.
them were the different
Not
kind. There
all.
was the action set that had it, and then obviously early on the one with ROB as well had it. But you could definitely get just the basic set NES without any of that stuff going on. So
Mhm.
there were kids out there that didn't have it for sure.
Also, the in general, like, I thought the graphics for this game, and the reason I'm bringing this up now is because I actually think the graphics, even for like I'm noticing specifically in the shoot 'em up segment, excuse me, are actually pretty solid for the NES. Like 1989, like the trees look really good. There's some nice gradients on the trunks and stuff like that, and there's like shading. The weakest part is
Yep.
like the grass texture at the bottom, but like there's a fucking giant sprite helicopter coming on and off screen.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Consistently.
they look good for the enemy animations and variants even in those levels. There's a ton of different kinds of enemies. The motorcycle guys, the guys running. I love how they have I don't know, multi-layer aspect, the depth, I guess, to it, and where
Yeah.
some of the characters are behind. I think you can still shoot them either way. I don't think it actually is able to like
Yeah, no,
protect them when they're
I don't think
behind.
it makes any difference.
Right, but at least visually, it's cool that they will run behind the windows and stuff, and that's pretty fun, I think. But
I
yeah,
mean,
there's a lot going on
theoretically, they
visually.
could have, because the way the light gun, for those who don't know, the way light gun technology works is that every time you press the trigger on the light gun, the screen will flash for a frame, and on it, anything that you're supposed to be able to hit, if it's something that is shootable, uh, where the location of it on the screen will have a white box. So the gun in that moment when you hit the trigger, it will detect like, hey, am I looking at a white box or anything like that? And if it is, then it knows that you hit it type of thing.
Right, but
So
then
theoretically,
they would have had to devote more bits, and they're not. Everything goes back to
well,
the bits, Josh.
would it have been able to like, because then they could have made the hitbox, like the white box for those guys hiding behind the trees, smaller. I don't know the technical limitations of the NES. Like,
Well, those
is that not an
backgrounds, the
option?
background sprites versus the background whatever visuals relative to the actual enemy sprites are different kinds of whatever data, based on my understanding of the 6502 stuff. So yeah, I think it probably would have required a little extra layer of effort and coding, probably to differentiate, obviously, being behind these supposed background sprites and not, would be my guess. I'm not a programming expert, but I would guess, I would think it would have taken a little more effort that, yeah, you're not always going to get out of an 8-bit developer, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Konami put in the steps with this, but for sure, like, I don't know, like, there's so much in this game, so I wouldn't be surprised if it just
Yeah,
too
had
many
to
mistakes.
make business decisions.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, Something else I want to talk about with the gameplay, though, is just the one thing I will give it as a compliment, despite the difficulty. We've been ragging on it pretty bad with this. I will say, the enemy variety is really nice. There's so many different types of enemies you can face. Like, even just looking at the manual, like right now I'm watching one of the earlier levels on the long play. You're fighting fucking crocodiles or alligators or whatever it's supposed to be.
Which,
You
yeah,
fight
those are
dogs
fun.
at some point, which is a really tough enemy, but you can fight them. You have I'm going to read just some of the enemies. Hurricane Hank is a dude with a giant club. Jacques Kilstow is the scuba diver guys with guns. Um, AL Hurt is a dude with a whip. Um, Migraine Mike is the dude with the ball and chain that's whipping him around. The guy who throws like explosives is just Mr. TNT. I love that. Just
Fun,
Mr.
yeah.
TNT. The dude who's kind of got like a sniper rifle, they went straight Russian sounding name, Kalishnikov,
Okay.
just because. The dude on the motorcycle is just called the Accelerator.
Nice. Yeah, very, very 80s action oriented ideas for sure.
My favorite one, oh, they did an Arnold Schwarzenegger too. There's a dude with like sunglasses and a
Oh
gun,
yeah, the
just
guy at the gate.
Schwartz and Eager.
Yeah, the guy at the gate is 100% an Arnie ripoff for sure. At the gate outside the mansion, we have it's a double. That's exactly where I dropped off the game. To be honest with you, is that shooting stage that takes you up to the mansion. The final boss is an Arnie character with a machine gun, and then a guy running around just throwing knives, like a little acrobatic guy, and with a beret on.
That's
And
Lightning Rod.
okay, that makes, yeah, perfect. So yeah, and like that is where, like I said, you feel that throughout the shooting stages, I think, but the having to use the crosshairs and not, because he throws these knives constantly that are kind of like a lot of those like perspective shooters of the time, where you get the bullets flying at you or a knife flying at you into your POV, and you got to shoot that thing before it hits you, of course, to not take damage. And that requires you taking your attention away from shooting and dealing damage to the goal of this sequence, the enemies themselves. And if you could do that where you just move the gun and shoot it and then back to the enemy, fine. But if you have to move that crosshair, it's not as precise. So that is a really unpleasant feeling part of the game when you don't have the zapper available to you. And yeah, that was where I was like, it seemed impossible to me. And I saved coming my ass off through the whole thing, and it still was like, no way, this is impossible. I can't do this.
So did you actually end up beating the game? Even same, no, if saves come
No,
to
that's where I
otherwise.
dropped. That's where I dropped off. That's where I dropped off and moved over
Okay.
to the play bed.
Yeah, the reason I was asking is I think I saw on it might have been Blue Sky, or maybe it was on Facebook. You posted about like the retro achievements for it, so I wasn't sure. Like, oh, did he end up beating the game or
Yeah,
not?
no, I got into that's a total tangent, but I discovered Infinite Backlog, the website, where it's like letterboxed for video games basically, and it aggregates. You can link all your accounts, your Steam account, your Xbox account, your PSN account, and they also link to retro achievements, which I've also never messed with, which is just it's literally, if I don't know if you use RetroArch for emulation, but it's just a toggle in the menu system, which I did not realize. And yeah, so now you turn the toggle on and it just auto does all that stuff. So when
Oh,
you're
that's
playing the game,
awesome.
it automatically clicks them over. And yeah, retro achievements is hardcore, man. Like I've never looked at I'm already like I have that fiber in me, the collector, the one 100% things. That's 100%
Yeah.
there, and me, well, 100% redundancy. The yeah,
Mhm.
so that was really fun to find. But the retro, relative to like a Steam game, where like the thing I'm playing right now is Half-Life Alyx, and maybe they have like I think 40 something achievements for a rather large, lengthy story based game. The retro achievements list for these old games are like they're insane. Like the Tecmo Bowl, Super Tecmo Bowl one I looked at yesterday is like 165 different
Jesus
achievements.
Christ.
So they if you try to want 100% an NES game on retro achievements, it's going to be a thing. So that's a fun way to whatever enjoy these games a little bit more and get a little more out of them, I suppose, if you have that. I don't know, debilitating, whatever
That
characteristic in
need.
you.
I think retro achievements is such a great idea though, because like achievements are something that's fun, like a fun way to keep track of like your achievements within a
Right.
game, like just the personal goals and shit like that. And so I think it's cool that there's a community effort out there that retroactively has like come back and like, we can do this with the retro games and found a way to make it work. So
Absolutely. And I feel
that's
like
really cool.
because it's not you know, uh, a game company has a certain like decorum they have to maintain, to like,
Yeah.
I don't know, they can't go too out there. They got to like kind of, they can't be too whatever. They have to have like a cap on how far they're willing to take a joke or whatever. Retro
Mhm.
Achievements doesn't have that. Like some of the Tecmo achievements are just like, first of all, just so minute. And like, if you weren't a Super Tecmo Bowl playing football fan child in 1990, 1991, sorry, when that game came out, like you're just not going to get it. But if you were, you're like, oh my God, yes, Andre Ware was a total bust. I have to get 7 touchdowns with him in a season to achieve this thing. Like that is like such a deep cut, basically. So yeah, I guess maybe the simpler way to say it is it's like some of them are really deep cuts that are super fun and you can tell are curated by actual video game fanatics.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
so cool. I might have to start doing that with some of the games I cover on the podcast. Not
It's
this
so easy,
one,
dude. It's
but
like I said, you literally just turn it on and it does it. And the infinite backlog thing is fun too. I've spent way too much time the last week, like going in and punching in all my game collections and where I've gotten in like old PC DOS Windows games from like the early 2000s, late 90s. Like
oh
if you're
shit.
a collector nerd and like organization and stuff, oh my God, it is an orgasm of minutia.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look. A buddy of mine, Try for My Life in Gaming, he runs a website called the Backloggery, and it's a similar type of thing
Yep.
where it's like just
I,
keeping
I was
track of your
deciding
backlog.
between that. Yeah, I looked at that one and Infinite Backlog, and because you could sync them automatically, I was like, well, that'll automate some of this for me. And
Mm.
it's also just not to knock his thing, but like Infinite Backlog is a little bit cleaner, I think, of a UI relative to Backloggery. So
No, I
that's
don't
why
think
I
you'd
made that
mind that at
choice.
all. Try, if you're listening to this, we still love you.
Yeah. Infinite
uh,
Backlog probably has more money to do it with, I would say. It looks a little corporate.
okay, so the next segment we touched on it a little bit, but the driving segment. We should at least talk about this godforsaken piece of shit. Um, it's I'm so like I said, I remember playing it when I first tried the game out and didn't get very far. Watching a long play of it now, it's just abysmal looking. The road is so small. You basically have these cars that are coming. It's got that that
It's a forced perspective,
yeah,
right?
forced
From behind.
perspective, right? And things will slowly get bigger as it gets closer to you. So you have to take out
Well,
jeeps, other jeeps, and
there's
enemies.
maybe like 3 frames between not on the screen and interacting with your sprite,
Yes,
which is
there's
not
so
good, of
little.
course. Yeah, not
Like,
good.
even there's other times where, like, I'm watching when a turn comes around, and, like, it is awful if you have to do any type of dodging while you're going around a turn. Like, there's a couple spots where, like, an oil slick will appear suddenly. I'm like, how the fuck are you supposed to dodge that unless you know it's
Those
coming?
and to be honest with you, dude, playing those stages, those don't actually seemingly do anything. I'm sure they must slow you down to some degree, but it's not really discernible in the feel. And you got to brake so much if you're doing those right anyways, in my opinion, that you really don't even notice those. So of all the things, those are the most benign probably. The things that really suck just obstacle wise are there's just roads, posts on the sides of the
Yes.
road. And you will hit those. They're everywhere. And again, they come out of nowhere. The turns are already hard to deal with to begin with. Like that is, yeah, those did not need to be there, I guess is the simplest thing to say. They're completely just a dagger turn on how bad those levels already are.
And with like the scrolling effect too, when you're going around a turn, sometimes those posts will appear in the middle of the road temporarily.
Yes,
And I'm
yes.
just like, what the
Like,
fuck? Like, if
yeah.
you don't,
What? Talk to me about the municipal engineering decision making there, where we're just gonna put these posts right in the middle of this shitty dirt road that's already poorly kept. Like it takes more effort to do that poorly than not, obviously. So like it's just such a
you know what?
ridiculous.
I wonder if it was like, I don't know if you've seen this somewhat recently, but like, what there's been like some like local municipalities, I don't know where, I forget where, that are experimenting with like drawing the lines on the road all squiggly even if the road is going straight, just to make people slow down in specific
And pay
areas
attention. Okay,
and
I
pay
love that.
attention.
Actually, I
So I'm
love
like,
manipulation. Manipulation is fascinating.
yeah, I'm like, is this just like an extreme version of that, where it's like, we're just gonna put posts in the middle of the road, so you better pay attention, otherwise you're gonna have a head-on collision at
Yeah.
90 miles an hour.
Yep. That's a nice justification. I like it. I like it, Josh. That's good.
That's
I
the
feel
only
better
thing I
about.
could think
I
of.
feel better about them now, actually.
Oh my god, it just that. And it's wild to me though that like they give put two driving sections back to back, and
Crazy.
then you don't really have to deal with the rest of the game. I did think it was cool though, reading the levels in that manual, how like the levels also like, they're not arbitrary. I feel like it
No,
would
yeah,
be
they
so
lead you to them.
easy.
Yeah. Well, you actually, I almost wanted to stop you, but I don't want to break your flow there. You said what it was the road. Are they both just the road to whatever, the mansion or whatever, or are the
The
different roads to different areas?
the first one is I-10, the road to New Orleans, is the first
It's
car
actually
driving
the
stage.
interstate. That's amazing.
Interstate
Okay.
10, the road to New Orleans car driving stage. And then Superdome Drive is the name of stage 5. So stage 4 is road to New Orleans, stage 5 is Superdome Drive. I don't
When is this happening? Where anywhere near the Superdome? I don't know what your familiarity with New Orleans geography is. I've been there
none.
a few days.
Zero.
I've been there a few times, and the Superdome is downtown, and you're not on a dirt road anywhere near the Superdome. It's impossible. At least in the '80s, maybe in the whatever.
When did it
Obviously,
open originally? 1971. Okay. Construction started in 71, broke ground in 71. I don't know when it would have officially opened, but if it started in 71 and this came out in 89, I would, you know, I am 99% certain it was done by then. Uh,
yeah. There's definitely done by
I
then.
would
Yeah.
hope.
It's probably, like I said, it's downtown. So the idea that his mansion compound would be somewhere in like the suburban part of downtown, logistically, I think like I said, they even have the interstate. So there was some time spent on thinking about the logistics here. It was not just an arbitrary, whatever guess. They at least looked at a map when they thought about this, I think.
So I did some math here, Josh. I did some math here, and I looked at the driving segments. So if we're going to the Superdome, right? If we're going to the Superdome, assuming this is correct, I I looked at the, because it gives you a miles per hour on the road here, and he's driving down Interstate 10, which isn't that drives literally right through the heart of New Orleans, Interstate 10, and it
Mm-hmm.
turns into eventually Interstate 61 apparently. Um, yes, I think. Hold on, where's Interstate 10 now? I just saw it a little bit. Okay, there it is. There's Interstate 10. Um, so I was like curious. I'm like, how many miles away approximately from the Superdome does Bayou Billy live?
Okay.
Uh, on average, looking at the speed he was driving, it was anywhere between like when the car was able to get up to speed, it would max out at 180 miles an hour. When you go through turns, it would be like down to like 150 ish, or like sometimes lower, sometimes like 140, sometimes
Which
much
there's
lower than
just
that.
no way a Jeep could do that, but whatever.
What are you talking about? It's Bayou Billy's.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
uh, actually, his Jeep has a name. Is That's the attack vehicle is called the Swamp Stomper. Those are the enemy Jeeps.
Oh yeah, and he would
Yeah.
have. You can't see on the NES, of course, because there's again only so many bits. But he would definitely have some decals and stuff that's
Oh yeah.
yeah, or a custom paint job maybe is a better way to say it. That stuff's on there.
What would his decals be? I
Yeah.
don't even
Well,
know.
that exact name, I mean, the
I
Swamp
hate swamp
Stomper.
ass. I hate
Yeah,
swamp ass.
yeah.
But so if you driving up Interstate 10, I was trying to find like a specific location, but it's kind of hard to figure it out on like Google Maps. Um, so
Of the origination point, you mean? Yeah, I
yeah,
was wondering, is there like a place that's like where like the bayou, like people say the bayou, like that is a thing that people say as far as just like describing whatever, it means something, I would guess, specifically geographically. So I wonder if there is just an actual the bayou. Protect that into Google. What
and the funny
is
thing is,
the
Route
New
10 literally
Orleans?
passes. Anyone listening from Louisiana and New Orleans knows this, but I'm not from there. Route 10 literally passes right by the Superdome,
Right.
literally right by it. So he's on Route 10 the entire time. Theoretically, I mean, I don't know how much the city expanded between when this game came out and when it was made. He would have only driven, I'm gonna guess, about 12 to 15 miles, because
Yeah.
I averaged it out. Like, he could have been farther. It could be it could be a little bit more than that. It could be closer to like 20. But I averaged his speed to 150 miles per hour, right? Because it maxes out at 180. He's actually at 180 most of the time, but when he goes around some turns, it drops down to like 20 and shit like that. So I averaged it out to 150. It's not a accurate measurement at all, but whatever. Then each driving segment in this long play is 2.5 minutes approximately long. So if you take 150 miles and multiply, if you're doing 150 miles an hour, you divide that by 60 to get that's 2.5 miles a minute. So 2.5 miles a minute times 2.5 minutes, you get 6.25 miles. So the dude probably only drove about 12 to 15 miles to get to
Okay.
the Superdome.
Well, I'm looking at the map here, and what I would guess when someone says the bayou, it's probably this shit out east. This area east of New Orleans looks like a very swampy. There's a lot of like little tiny water whatever in amidst like the land masses. So this is probably the swamp. There's like a lot of bayou named things in that area just to the east. Bayou Bienview, Bayou Crawfish Charters, Bayou this, Bayou that. So that's my guess of where they're coming from, and it is kind of close. I don't know what's the scale here. 2 miles, dude. I think that might work. Looking at the scale here, that might make sense. Which is
Actually,
amazing.
you know what?
It's amazing.
Okay, so no, it's wild. So I just looked at this now. I went from the Superdome to, I'm going out west actually, and it's, oh my god, this is crazy. Right at Grand Lake Estates, there's like a hard line, and it's
Right, I see
exactly
it.
21 miles. No, not exactly. It's going a weird long way to get to it. Hold on, let me do this.
Yeah, now look at this. Yeah, that's probably about 6 miles as well. Honestly, maybe 8. Looking at the scale on the map I'm looking
That's
at.
13.9 miles right to the edge. We found
Okay.
Bayou Billy's home.
Grand Lake Estates is where it should be, but that name
In
makes
between
a ton
Wetland
of
Watchers Park and Grand Lake Estates in Louisiana. That is Bayou Billy's
nailed it.
house. We're
Nailed it.
definitively saying it right now, because
Right.
it doesn't change. Like Route 10 then goes up north, and it's possible, but it looks like it would. I don't know. It could be either way.
I feel like a accomplished forensics technician here or something. We're deconstructing the crime scene right here live, and it feels great.
So we know exactly Bayou Billy lives. Now let me turn on satellite view. Are there any houses there? Not that I can say. That's too much. But
Yeah,
anyway, that was we folks. You heard it here. Bayou Billy
yeah.
lives somewhere in between Grand Lake Estates on Route 10 and
Downtown New
Wetland
Orleans.
Watchers Park. And
Oh,
yeah,
okay, yeah, as far as specificity, yeah,
because
yeah.
that's all the bayou. It's all okay. I don't know if that's the bayou. There's no houses there. It's all like little like water and rest water shenanigans, like canals and like
Okay.
actuary or whatever the fuck. I can't think of the proper terminology for it. Anyway, um I don't have much more to add to the gameplay section, man. Do you? Is there any final thoughts in the gameplay before we touch on the music and visuals?
I mean, not really. The shooting stuff, we didn't mention that it's one hit death there, and that the one hit death can be enacted by running out of bullets. And
Jesus
that
Christ!
is an awful mechanic, I think. The fact that you even I think of Operation Wolf, and that I actually kind of like that game, and that's another game where, modern day, I'm going to play it with crosshairs. But if you run out of bullets there, obviously a catastrophe based on it's nothing but shooting. But you don't just die. You can have the opportunity presented to you where you're able to get some more bullets. You know what I mean? So
Mm,
running out of bullets should not just be an auto death. And that's the thing. It's just not balanced well either. You run out of bullets way too easily. And that was like the frustrating thing about those levels. That like the first time I died there, I was like, what the fuck happened? I had tons of life. What even happened there? And while it does have a cool death animation, the death screen is cool. And that applies to all the game. I think there's a really cool death animation. But yeah, running out of bullets actually kills you, and there are already difficult stages, and the fact that that is there to just up the, again, dagger turn is a really terrible thing about those that bothered me a great deal.
just a brutally unforgiving game.
Yep,
Um,
for sure.
all right, well let's dive into the last segment before final thoughts. Here, we're going to talk about the overall visuals and music and overall presentation of the game. We've touched on it a little bit specifically in the shoot 'em up segment where we were talking about how good it looks. Uh, I'll kick this one off briefly, and then I'll send it over to you, Josh. I think this game has a great soundtrack. It's not like a top tier one, but it's better than the average NES game for sure. Specifically, I was really surprised by the end song. Like when you're watching the credits, it's very kind of beautiful, actually. I was really surprised by that. Like after you defeat Gordon and his two henchmen, um, there's like all the credits are rolling with all the fake names and everything, and it's got this really uh nice melody, kind of just this very pretty melody. I was
Konami
really
does not
surprised
fuck
by it.
around, man. Konami does not fuck around.
No, it's a known thing too, but the drum samples are fantastic. Konami drum samples are like known for being great, and they are great in this game.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, the music, I mean, all, yeah, we already kind of said it. I think all the visual, I mean, that in the sprite work on that end sequence there before the credits, your victory lap after beating Gordon and the cyber whatever dudes are, like, it is beautiful. Like, it's really well done sprite work. And early stage, like I always say, Batman to me is like the I don't know, the crux. That's the first game that like really blew me away visually. The sprite work in Batman,
Mm-hmm.
which Sunsoft, also amazing developer,
Yeah.
of course, but the sprite work there of like representing not only the Joker and Batman and Vicky Vale, but the actors that played those characters in the film. It's portraying those as those people very well, and like that to me is again one of the turning points for like the NES's ability to like really do cool and good sprite work. I think, particularly lifelike, I guess maybe more importantly, and that is here. Like they're nailing that here, and that this is early for that. I guess is maybe my point. And yeah, all the window dressing on this game is fantastic. If they could have just got the gameplay, a couple notches across the board on, or eliminating one of those and made two of them better, maybe would have been a more realistic solution. This could have been a great video game.
There's so much. I almost feel like if they would have cut out a few of the enemy types, because the enemies all look super detailed as well. Like like the section I'm watching right now is the dude with like the ball and chain. And like every time he swings the chain around, like his armpit actually flexes, and like there's the shadow changes and stuff like that. Like it's minor, but like it's stuff like that that really kind of like
Yeah, those details, right?
there's a
Yeah, for
lot of
sure,
great
man.
detail in this. Like the sprite work just in general of the background is great. Like in New Orleans, whether it's in the Bayou, whether it's in New Orleans, or as we learned recently, if it's in Grand Lake Estates or
Right.
Wetland Watchers Park, somewhere in the Bayou, somewhere in there, somewhere
Yeah.
out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, I think if you want to criticize graphics, the driving stages are probably the easiest target. Those are the most basic and stripped down and simplified, and both just literally the freeze frames from them I think are basic. And then we already talked about how bad the animation is as far as like kind of the frame allotments for movement and control stuff there. So yeah, that is one area where it's a little deficient. But yeah, the beat 'em up stuff and the shooting stages look fantastic, I think.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. The driving segments definitely are a little lackluster for sure
Right.
in terms of
But
visuals, of course.
but that is such a I kind of just a whatever encapsulation of our overarching criticism is like that's why like they did not have enough resources available to them to do all the things as well as Konami is clearly capable of doing them. So that is just you don't want to
I
call it a flaw because you're happy with the swing like we talked about too, but
Yeah.
yeah, it falls short for that very reason, even below I think they're like kind of just bait, like as bad as Konami can get. Like as a result, there are parts of this game, not all of it, but as a result, there are parts of this game that are as low as Konami in early NES stages can go, and that is a shame because there are parts of it that are Konami in all their glory too, and that is the tragedy of the game actually.
The So looking at it now, I was just curious what MMC chip was in the cart for this one.
I
Um,
guess a one, right? Is it a one?
it's a
It's not a
one,
three.
yeah. It's an
Yeah.
MMC one chip. For those, I did a bonus episode years ago on this because, like you, Josh, sometimes I can get it pretty like in the weeds on certain things.
Yeah.
But like the MMC, so for those who don't know, the MMC chips are MMC stands for memory mapper chip, and it was what the NES used in cartridges to expand the console's life
It's
cycle
why games got
capabilities.
better on the NES and the system didn't
Yes.
change.
Um,
They
so
essentially
the,
were putting extra console circuitry in the cartridges is maybe the most basic way
exactly.
to explain it. Yeah.
Literally, it's like adding an expansion pack into every single cartridge, pretty
Right.
much.
Yep.
The To put in perspective, listeners, if you took the original Super Mario Brothers, that is the height of what that's the original the NES could do without any of the MMC chips. If without the MMC chips, you could not get much more advanced than
Yeah.
what you had on the original Super Mario Brothers game.
Yep.
Um, MMC1 had The Legend of Zelda, had Mega Man 2, Metroid was on there. MMC1 allowed you to scroll in different directions, which you could not do on the base cartridge like Super Mario Brothers. That's why you only can go left to right. But in like Zelda, you can go, when you shift screens, you can go different directions. In Metroid, you have vertical scrolling sections, you have horizontal scrolling sections, but you can't do both at the same time. They had to be on different screens. MMC2, there's only one game that used that, and that was Mike
The
Tyson's
best game
Punch
on the
Out.
system. Yep.
What did you say?
That's the best game on the system, in my opinion.
Really big punch.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
if I ever do Punch Out, I'm gonna have to have you back
Oh,
on the show then.
I'll fight to the death for that game. Yeah, let's go.
And MMC3 is the big one. It originally came out in 1988, so this game could have used it, but a lot of those types of things, like the reason they probably didn't is just cost. They didn't want to spend as much. Like it would have been more expensive to manufacture these cartridges, which, once again, a little Nintendo history for those who don't know. Game developers had to front the cost of the cartridges up front, or that, I guess that makes sense. I was redundant there. They had to cover the cost of the cartridges up front.
Yep.
It's not like you could say like, all right, we want to make this, and then Nintendo puts a bunch and then makes a bunch and
Yep.
then they sold them. No, you had to buy your cartridges from Nintendo, not from a third party source whatsoever.
And let them do the manufacturing and put the ROMs in the cart, and they do just mail them to you. They just send them to you. Okay, your problem now.
And that's a huge amount of risk for developers up front. Like, because they have to be extra certain that a game's going to sell well before they commit to a large number, because it's expensive to make these things, and without the hope of like it returning on their investment, which I mean, honestly, probably ended up hurting. I mean, it didn't hurt Nintendo clearly because the NES was like the most popular system of its generation in North America. To be clear, it's obviously and in Japan as well, but it's very anti-business to say the least. It is not a consumer or business friendly business practice from Nintendo. There, it fucked over a lot of developers because of that.
It is why the whole 16-bit, or a large part of why the 16-bit thing swayed out of their favor too, though,
Yep.
is kind of the backlash of this had a lot to do with their struggles in the 16-bit
Uh
area.
huh.
Or not struggles, they did fine too, but their loss of market share and Sega's rise to prominence was a huge function of this
Yep.
exact business practice, for
Because they
sure.
treated their third-party devs, third-party companies, really kind of shittily. And I wouldn't be surprised if Bayou Billy probably could have had an MMC3 chip and done more and had more space to do things. But most likely, this is a new title. It's a new type of game. It's like it's not part of a series that's already been proven to be popular.
Right.
So they probably aren't going to take a risk on it. Um,
Yep.
Put in perspective, games that were on the MMC3 chip: Mega Man 3, 4, 5, and 6, Super Mario Brothers 3, Kirby's Adventure. Like some of the most impressive games on the NES are on the MMC3 chip. There's other games that obviously had like different. There's other chips as well. We won't go into all those. That's not the
Yeah,
point
the
of this
five, the big
episode.
Castlevania 3 was like the kickoff of
Oh
the
yeah.
five too, and now there wasn't a ton of. I mean, I guess at late stage NES, maybe there were more, but yeah, Castlevania 3 was the kind of the kickoff of the five.
And then the MMC6 had Star Tropics on it, but that's a conversation for another day.
Right,
But
right.
I was just thinking about it in regards to Bayou Billy because it's like this game did come out at a time where they could have used an MC3 chip because this game came out in '89 and the chip was introduced in '88. So like it's possible they could have used it, but my guess once again is just manufacturing costs and all that other stuff. But even with that, this game looks amazing. It sounds amazing. Does not play amazing, as we've talked ad nauseum at this point. It's frustrating because I guess we can use this then to transition to kind of like the final thoughts for the episode. Is that this game honestly I think has a lot of promise. Like I think there's a lot here that could have been really good, and just due to either limitations of budget, not wanting to go up for a better MMC chip, or limitations of time, or maybe just scope. Maybe they bit off more than they can chew with too many design ideas. Their scope
Like
was
you
too
touched,
large.
the deliberate imbalance, the deliberately employed imbalance of gameplay. That
That
was not like.
actually, you know what? That's probably the bigger culprit. You're right.
Right, exactly. Like it's not. Yeah, it was that didn't just happen. That was a deliberate choice, and for that reason, if we're sitting here, lobbying criticisms for it, that is certainly one of them because that was a choice. you know.
That was very much a choice.
Yeah.
And I know I didn't play much of it for this episode, but like I really don't think you need to play much of it to get the gist of it. You really don't. Like if you want to know what the driving segment and the shoot 'em up segment are like, yeah, then you would have to struggle through some really hard levels to get there. But like once you play like the first couple sections of the beat 'em up stage and realize how brutally difficult it is on the North American version, it's just like you know how it is. Like you understand the mechanics instantly because there's no depth to it. That's the big problem. There's no depth to the mechanics. So once you play 2 minutes, you understand exactly how the rest of this game is going to play, at least for the beat 'em up segment. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's just it's not a great game, and it's frustrating because I think the theming is really fun. I think as we were talking about with the localization, the copywriting they did is a lot of fun. It just you could tell the person who wrote that just had so much fun with all like the with the manual and the story and the background story and like the character bios and all this other stuff. Like there's just a lot to like about this game, and it really kind of doesn't deliver. Last thing I want to say though before I throw it over to you though, man, there's a couple things I forgot to bring up before and I wanted to bring up now before I forget. Bayou Billy does appear outside of this game in a handful of locations. Famously, to my listeners who went through the entire Captain N series with me, there's one episode of Captain N the Game Master where you meet Bayou Billy.
He
He
gets in
does
there.
show up in like
Nice.
he does
Nice.
show up in like one other episode. I forget exactly, but there's one episode specifically designated towards him. Um, which is kind of cool. And there was going to be, apparently he was going to get his own cartoon. Like Konami really believed in this IP, because there was a rumored cartoon, but he appears in Captain N. And also there's 5 issues of a Bayou Billy comic book from Archie Comics back in the late
Archie
80s,
did it.
early
Okay.
90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first issue is from the Archie Adventure series. They did the Adventures of Bayou Billy, and you can actually read all of them on archive.org.
It's such an amazing website. Such an amazing
It,
website.
it really is. Now, I don't know if there's more than 8 or more than 5 issues.
No, that sounds like exactly right. For that happens so frequently, where like, it was the mode of when anyone was inventing any sort of childhood oriented IP in this era, that everyone did it. Everyone did, like, okay, we'll get a comic. That'll be one way we kind of permeate
Mhm.
out into the ether. And then yes, we have the video game. Okay, like, can we do it? Can we get them into a cartoon? Sure. Like, it's all three of just the most tried and true beats for creating an IP. But when it fails, that's exactly the length that those kind of things go. 5 or 6 issues is exactly what I would expect that pursuit or whatever, that idea to last, because clearly it doesn't have enough to carry it and really become a thing, I don't think.
The last issue, Bayou Billy goes up against a dude called the Black Gator, which is, he kind of honestly looks like a little bit like Black Panther. It's
Okay.
not. It's some white dude in a black suit, like a superhero suit, but he's a villain, and he's got like a gator teeth necklace around his neck, and he like
Nice.
has a katana and shit like that. It's really weird. The cover art looks fucking badass. Let me send you a link in Discord or wherever, email, whatever the fuck. And so you, like, you don't have to look at it now, but just so you can see what I'm talking about in the future. But it's crazy. So Bayou Billy was going to be like, there was a chance this was going to be a thing, that that this could have been like a long running series or something like that. But the game sold decently enough, but apparently it was a surprisingly popular game on the NES. But like, I think the combination of the brutal difficulty and everything else, it didn't really go much further.
Yeah.
After the Archie
Word
series
of
and
mouth on
everything.
the playgrounds eventually will kill you if you don't do a good job.
Yes. And no amount of cleavage from Annabelle can save you.
Jiggly cleavage, most importantly.
It still is the
Not
wildest
static
fucking thing
cleavage.
to me. Static. Not non-static cleavage is oh, it's wild. Anyway, I don't have anything else to add to this. I'm going to throw it over to you, man. Final thoughts on the game, or if there's anything else that I brought up you want to comment on, feel free to go into it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I want. It's why I love. The reason I keep doing our podcast is because I go into these things, which is funny. I am not an optimistic person. Probably. I always say that I am like to the nano percentile of 50%. The glass is not half full. It's not half empty. It just is. And so it's funny to me that I go into so many of these gaming things with our pod with genuine optimism and hope that I am going to discover something. And I have. That's why. Is because I have had games where, like, oh my God, this game, I can't believe I missed this in 1990 or 1991 when I was totally over my head immersed in Nintendo stuff, So like, I go into these things, especially a game like this that I told you I have like a story with, a backstory to some degree. And so I went into it hoping I was wrong all these years, or I just hadn't given it the opportunity, enough of an opportunity to enjoy it. So I tried to like this, I guess, and it's just not good. It just is not good and not satisfying. And like, it's one thing, like I said, there's a tragedy in it because there is so much about it that seems like, or even is good. So the parts that fail, the idea that they fail so badly that the overall comes so short of being a playable, enjoyable experience is a real bummer, I think. But it does for sure. And, the core thing of the beat 'em up is just, that's a genre. I already said it just, until we have some more buttons on the controller to diversify our gameplay experience, these games all kind of aren't quite there, in my opinion. So maybe that informs the negative of it a little bit, but just generally speaking, yeah, it just comes up short in every possible way. And It is because of one, deliberate decisions, like we said, and two, just the aspiration was too high with it, and that is a bummer because I would have loved for them to nail this. This would have, I mean, if they would have nailed what they were trying to do here, this would be considered like one of the pantheon games on the NES, I think, because all the stuff around these core elements that come up short are really, really great. And it is Konami too, so they already have a leg up probably in in getting a foothold on that public opinion about it. So yeah, it is just one, I think, of the early tragedies of the system, because it just doesn't doesn't get there.
Nope, just not a great experience. Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap this episode up, man. I think we've struggled, waded through the bayou long enough. We've talked about
Right.
Bayou Billy. We've driven down I-10 to the Superdome and fought fucking Gordon. What a wild name for a villain, just Gordon. I know he has a title. He's the fucking whatever king, whatever of King Gangster of Bourbon Street or whatever the fuck, but still his name's Gordon, and I just think of the Mighty Ducks and he's Gordon Bombay.
That was one story area where they probably could have done a little better, for sure. I agree. You can, especially because they went so far with so many of the henchmen. The names were like, they went balls to the wall with how out there and action movie and illogical those names are. The idea that the head of the whole organization didn't have some sort of crazy name is kind of a little bit of a fail too, probably from a story perspective.
Honestly, all the villain names remind me of like old gangster movies. It's like Twinkle Toes,
Sure,
Gambino or something like that.
Dick Tracy names.
Yeah, Dick Tracy names. Yeah, exactly. But all right, well, that will do it for this episode of Still Loading. I can't thank you all so much for listening. Josh, I can't thank you enough, man, for joining me. This was a lot of fun. I love this conversation.
Absolutely.
If you are to be found online, where can the good people find you online? And is there anything you'd like to promote?
Absolutely. So yeah, we do, me and a buddy of mine who I've known for a very long time, do a very deep cut podcast on retro video games, where it's the Imperial Schools of Honor podcast, and our kind of whatever tagline for it or pitch for it is we're examining the 400 years of the console gaming landscape through the prism of the game mags that covered it. So we, kind of like you were talking about, I thought of this when you were talking about Jim Ray Parrish. I'm sure there's some level of whatever inspiration in the way he's doing that, because we were doing it in newsstand order. So we started with the Nintendo Fun Club News and the Sega newsletter, predecessors to Nintendo Power and Sega Visions. So right at the beginning, basically in the US, as far as game mags go, and we are working through in chronological newsstand order. We do a mag episode, we cover the issue, we pick a game out of that issue, and then do a game episode on that next, and then go back to the next issue in newsstand order of those two magazines. And then we have Game Pro as a third party, kind of impartial opinion on these things, as opposed to Sega and Nintendo's proprietary mags, of course, being a little skewed towards their stuff. So it is a very, very whatever. We try to be funny. We try to make granular is a great word. Yeah, we try to be funny. We try to be conversational in it too. But we also are trying to be informative and actually get this stuff right, and maybe bring things to light that aren't just the things that everyone knows about these video games. So please check it out. You can, of course, find it on any pod player that you get podcasts from. But NYEHentertainment.com /ISOH pod is the main website for it on my production company website. So that is where you can find us. And I am on Instagram at MyShiftKeyIsBroke. My Blue Sky is NYEHentertainment.com. Again, NYEHentertainment.com. And yeah, man, look me up and let's compare retro achievements, perhaps.
Please, everyone, go check out his podcast as well as all his socials there. I will include links in the show notes, so it's easier to get access to it. Funny story, by the way, man. So one of my blind spots until last year was I had never played a Dragon Quest game ever.
Oh my God.
And so I was like, Imperial Scrolls of Honor, that's a really interesting name for a video game podcast. I didn't understand the reference. So I played Dragon Quest 1 for the first time, and it's like, do you want to you don't want to write your journeys down in the Imperial Scrolls of Honor? And my
Record your
first
deeds
thought,
upon the Imperial Scrolls
yes.
of Honor.
And the
Yes, that's right.
moment that it did that, I went, oh, fuck, that's what the name means.
Oh,
Okay.
and Josh, there's so much thought behind it too. I can't even get it. So, the Imperial Scrolls of Honor, these actual tangible deeds that get written down in those games. Also, we are the theme of the podcast is the magazines. The core is the magazines. Yes, we play the games too, but these deeds that were written down by these omnipotent individuals that kind of steered our childhoods are also our own kind of personal Imperial Scrolls of Honor, I think, So yeah, it's heavy. We're not just, these aren't just hat racks on our shoulders over here, Josh. We're thinking with these podcasts and this marketing here.
I like it. I like it. So yes, everyone, please go check it out. And if you're looking for long form content, the episodes are lengthy, and I mean that as a compliment because I like longer episodes as well. So plenty of content for you to go check out over at the Imperial Scrolls of Honor. I will have links in the show notes. For myself, you can follow me on Blue Sky at stillloadingpodcast.com, on Instagram at stillloadingpod, technically on Facebook at stillloadingpod as well, and the other place, the shitter or whatever it is, same at stillloadingpod, but I don't really check that. It's kind of locked right now. Anyway, you can find me at all those different locations. You can also find me on Twitch at Still Loading Pod over on Twitch, where I stream whenever the hell I'm able to. Just really depends on what my schedule is for the week. So it's all over the place. But if you want to see when I go live, feel free to give me a follow there and you will know. If you want to support the show, though, if you like what you heard and you want to support it and help it grow, the easiest way to do that is give it a 5-star rating or review on whichever podcasting app you use. It does help more people find the show, and it pleases the algorithm gods or something like that. You can also support the show over on Patreon, patreon.com/stillloadingpod. For only $1 a month, you get all the episodes a little bit earlier with better audio quality, as well as access to patron voting rights, which chose the topic for this episode. It helps guide the direction of the show. So for only $1 a month, you can help guide the direction and help me pick future topics and games and other things like that. So that's all over at the $1 level. For $3 a month, you get everything at the $1 tier plus patron shoutouts, which you heard at the beginning of this episode. For $4 a month, you get all the previous stuff plus 2 mini bonus episodes every month. And for $5 a month, you get everything. All of the previous years, plus access to my monthly movie podcast, which the time this episode comes out, the first episode of a new series is going to be coming out in soon. I can't remember which Friday it's going to come out yet, but I just wrapped up Still Family, my monthly Fast and Furious movie podcast series, and we are starting off. Me and Doug Leaf from the Nostalgia Marcanum podcast are starting off Still Muppeting, where we're looking through all of the Muppet movies and some of the other ones, like Labyrinth and Dark Crystal and stuff like that.
I just rewatched around the holidays the Muppet Christmas. Pretty good. That's a pretty good flick.
Muppet Christmas Carol is genuinely really good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good flick.
It's really good. So yeah, we're going to be talking all things Muppets for the next couple months over there. I usually do some type of like advertising pitch, like Still Family was like, where all the guests who join me aren't just friends, they're family. This one I don't know what the tagline or whatever you want to call it is, what the proper industry term for that is, but I'll figure something out before the episode comes out. In any case, that's all over at patreon.com/stillloadingpod. Tons of content for you over there. Not only are all the Fast and Furious movies over there at the $5 level, all of the James Bond movies are over there at the $5 level. We covered all of those, and soon all of the Muppet movies will be there too. So that's it, patreon.com/stillloadingpod. And that is all the time I have for you on this episode of Still Loading. Thank you all once again for listening. Josh, thank you once again for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man. It was a blast.
And with all that said, listeners, I will see you all next time.